today's show, the changing face of footy. The games are off, but the gamers are well and truly switched on. And we look back at the moment that shaped the showdown rivalry. Hi everyone and welcome to another Optus Crows Show. I'm Alana Smith. Well, AFL clubs have no choice but to restructure their football departments and unfortunately implement a range of cost-cutting measures as the industry tries to fight its way through this coronavirus pandemic. With the return of games not far away, we caught up with Crows footy boss Adam Kelly to get an update on how things are tracking.
It's a really busy period for the club. Not only are we dealing with the return to play, we've got all of our athletes remote at the moment and we're working across all of our staff remotely, so that's got its own challenges, but layered on top of that, the return to play model is going to have some significant protocols related to COVID-19 and we're going to have to educate ourselves on those and make sure that the structures we put in place ensure effective implementation. The resources that have been available to us in the past are simply not going to be there, so that's going to mean significant change, not only change in the number of people we have in the football department but the roles that they'll play, but also a change in the operating expenditure of the club. So I guess all elements of our footy department will be reviewed. What has been a really challenging time, I think you get a bit of a window into the character of our people, and to that end, we're really pleased with the way in which our team have held together and supported each other. So really proud of the group, and for that we can be really excited about the future.
It's hard to think of a more influential patch of footy than Adelaide's second half of the 1997 preliminary final. Down by 31 points at the main break, the Crows ran over the top of the Bulldogs to progress through to the grand final and ultimately a premiership. Thanks to the club's major partner Toyota, which continues to provide unwavering support. Let's look back on the big moments from that famous prelim final.
Jamison, Siren.
The most memorable thing was the ending. For me, it's the most euphoric moment I had in my playing career. Like the game being so close, a grand final on the end of it, not knowing back in those days the runner didn't come out and say there's 30 seconds to go. Like it was just, you were just hanging on for dear life. The ball was deep in their forward line. So when we heard that siren and the feeling after that, it was just, spectacular.
There's been so much written and so much said.
After the siren had the Bulldogs poised for a grand final berth.
We were about 4 or 5 goals down and we weren't playing all that well. We'd kicked really poorly at goal, so I don't think we felt as if we were out of the game, but we just knew that we had to improve, and Blighty in his his own way made that very well known at half time, and we were able to sort of turn that around in the second half. When there's a grand final on the end of it, that's a pretty big motivator for you. And the other thing that was in the back of my mind, at least anyway, is that in '93 we were in the opposite position. Like we were 7 goals up against Essendon, and we let that opportunity slip to actually play in a grand final. And of course, Essendon went on to win the flag. So, I think there was 9 or 10 players who were still playing from '93, and I'm sure that even if it's subconsciously, the opportunity to, you never knew when you were going to get back to another prelim final, so we had to make the most of it. And it's interesting when the game turns and the momentum starts to get in your favour, it's a very powerful force, and it was against us in '93 and it was with us in '97.
The spotlight is on him. 35 metres out. The Crows are in front. Tony Liberatore celebrates a point.
I was sort of not far away from being behind him, and the ball really floated, and it sort of floated from side to side, and I'm not sure if many people have picked this up, but the ball goes higher than the goalpost, but the umpire gives it a point and then hits the post as if to say that the ball went over the post. So when you think about sort of a game of inches, we're talking the width of a football basically, the difference between maybe making a grand final and not.
Thousands of people cramming the airport last night and singing their praises.
In the end, I don't think you care too much about what happened during the year. Once you get to the finals, it's all about, winning that one day, particularly for us when you get to this sort of knockout stage. And we never let ourselves get ahead of ourselves at all, and we just kept focusing on the job at hand. And the only time we actually thought about winning the premiership was at three-quarter time in the grand final. He said, now you can actually think about doing that. So, up until then, it was just always really short-term goals and really clear focus on the things we had to do well.
Plenty more to come on the show, and after the break we find out how one Crow is satisfying his competitive spirit.
I was always fortunate enough as a kid, so from the age of about 8 to always have the latest console with mum and dad.
Welcome back. Well, some fans say there is no greater rivalry in Australian sport than the one shared by the Crows and Port Adelaide. There have been many memorable moments, and for that matter, some others both clubs would like to forget. We've reached into the Crows Show vault to take you back to the very first showdown and an infamous moment that set the tone for these on-field battles. This story brought to you by Bendigo Bank.
And a Jamison, Cummings, that could be a pivotal duel.
First of all, the game itself, we had Tom Gilligan in the ruck. We had our ruckmen that were injured, so we went in a little undermanned straight away. I think personally for me, I found it probably overawed a little bit by the occasion. It was against a rival. There was so much build up. The week was huge. The game itself, I was always one to want to get the game underway so you could actually just get your first kick and tackle and so on. But the build-up was just phenomenal.
We've got a box line goals in there.
Paddington one too.
Oh! New haymakers thrown off the ball inside.
If you recall, Jason McCartney was playing for Adelaide at the time, and he came from Collingwood. Scott Cummings had only just got picked up, and he came from Essendon. Cummings tended to be a little bit mouthy at the time, and that didn't really bother me. But they started to sort of walk to each other, and he was walking to the back pocket and he just kept going. So he started walking over to Jason McCartney. And then they just started verbal each other. Scott Cummings pushed him. Jason McCartney pushed him back, and then Scott Cummings just really launched out and grabbed him by the throat. And I guess right at the time, I just went, I've just had enough. You think you're black and white through and through, and you've been here 2 minutes. So it sort of started, that's how it actually started.
Have this. Away, Peter, but I think you saw it fairly well.
It was a boxing match. Look at this.
Oh, look, I think I did okay. He had a bit of blubber around him, so he was about 10 kilo heavier than me. But look, I must admit I surprised myself in terms of how I handled the moment. Because I didn't even think I was on a footy field at the time, and Malcolm Blight never said a word to me. Neil Craig just said, you're no good to us if you're not on the field. We'd lost, felt ordinary, played bad, Cummings kicked 4. Anyway, I ended up going over to Melbourne, flying out, and went through that whole process and got rubbed out for 3 games for attempting to strike. So I had a little holiday. Look, is it good for the game? Who knows? You can talk NHL and they go toe-to-toe, and that's how it is and that's how it unfolds. But as a spectacle, you certainly don't want spot fires all over the place, but sometimes I feel some players tend to be quite mouthy and, bark at the opposition where they know that nothing can be retaliated to. So I don't think you'll see much of it again in the future. We haven't seen much in recent years, but every now and then I don't think it's a bad thing.
Well, the thrill that comes with playing footy has been taken away from the players, but that has not stopped some of them satisfying their competitive spirit in other ways. Take Rory Atkins, for example, who has turned his attention to gaming. Once his daily training routine is complete, you can be sure to find the player affectionately known as Rat playing video games.
Going for goal. Come on!
I was always fortunate enough as a kid, so from the age of about 8 to always have the latest console with mum and dad. So I've been playing, since I was about 10 and playing a lot. But now in the circumstances, spending a lot more time at home, and I thought I may as well make the most of how much I'm gaming with my mates, and a few of my other teammates are on the console a fair bit as well, so I thought I might give it a go at streaming and stuff like that, so it's been a bit of fun. I play with Rory Laird, Jordan Butts, and then a few of my mates back home. And Billy Frampton also, sorry. Billy might have a go at me for that.
Get there. Let's get up, big boy. You love that.
Yeah, so I'm close mates with Tommy Sheridan, who's at the GWS Giants at the minute. So he started up a lockdown league. So that's started with a 32-man fever competition, and there were 2 fans in there. We stream in, we play a game, and there's some prizes on the line. So it's been good to allocate a day throughout this time of week. So yeah, it's been good fun. I've played with Barcelona the first 2 rounds, and I don't think I'm going to stray from them. I'll practice with them as well, so I reckon I'll have to stick with them. Actually, I played Hayden Crozier in the last round from the Western Bulldogs, and he wanted to go to Barcelona also, but I stuck strong and said I'm not going anyone else. So.
Let's talk women's footy now. And Chelsea Randall has quickly become one of the most popular Crows in town. She's also spent the entire 2020 AFLW season on the sidelines after badly injuring her knee on day 1 of training. But ever the optimist, we caught up with Chelsea to see how she's tracking.
Morning! In more positive news, I started running! Coming along really, really well. I've got the same size quad on the other leg now, which is great. So that's been quite a few months in the making, trying to get the same size muscle. So that's a great sign, and yeah, running now, which is fantastic, and yeah, just ticking off a few boxes.
Nervous moment here for Stevens, does well, and Phillips has gone down, clutching her knee as well. Erin Phillips on the turn has gone down.
It can definitely help having, you know, other teammates that have been through the similar process and rehab. It's just such a long-term injury, and some of my teammates, you know, unfortunately, have been through it, you know, numerous of times. It's been a difficult situation to be in, not having access to the club or that, but I'm so very fortunate that the physio that I'm seeing at the moment has, you know, just poured a lot of time and effort into my program, and I'm forever grateful to that. And Warwick Raymond and Sean Baker have, you know, helped me out significantly.
Yeah, the leading goal kicker from last year, a little piece of magic from Stevie Lee.
It was definitely, you know, challenging to watch from the sidelines. I'm not a great supporter or watcher, but yeah, I think having a purpose and learning a different role in terms of my coaching, my assistant coaching role with Andrew McLeod, and you know, we've got such an amazing coaching staff, and I'm forever learning off those guys. And yeah, I learned a lot this year, and learning more about myself, which is great as well.
Coming up, we reflect on another one of the Crows' most memorable finals wins from yesteryear.
They led by 40 points at quarter time, but trailed by 29 points deep into the third quarter.
Well, footy is edging closer to a return, and that means players must not miss a beat with their training programs. Adelaide's players are all back in South Australia, and thanks to Flight Centre, let's fly around the suburbs and regions to find out how they are going.
All right.
Here we go.
Probably Rory O'Brien and Bill Frampton. First training session, I was used to coming out of the under-18 system where warm-ups went for about 2.5 minutes, and suddenly ours were going for about 45 minutes. So I was a bit confused what was the warm-up and what wasn't. So I started going full at a gate pretty early on, thinking it was actual training, but we were still in the warm-up. So I think it was Matty Yench or Daniel Talia coined the term bull.
Well, there's always plenty of footy stories and opinions floating around, and the club wants to make sure you don't miss a beat. More so than ever, it's important to keep an eye on Adelaide's website, afc.com.au, where you will find plenty of entertaining content and news as it breaks. There is also the social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, so make sure you follow them closely. Plus, keep an eye on @The Crows Show on Twitter. High-scoring games are always popular with fans, and nearly 20 years ago, Adelaide was involved in a semi-final shootout with Melbourne. Not only was it an exciting game which the Crows went on to win, but it was also Nigel Smart's 250th AFL game.
So down it goes in the middle to start this game. Give the first one to Bickley, straight to stem line.
I've only recently just watched it again, and it was a great game. It was high scoring. It had some terrific passages of play. Guys like McLeod, Johnson from Melbourne, they were running, bouncing the ball, kicking goals. It was awesome. So, look, on reflection, it's pretty highly ranked, no doubt about it.
Flabbergasted up here, who almost lost for words. Well, it's their 8th goal, 7 goal kickers.
We played an exceptional first quarter. Our centre clearances were great. Andrew McLeod was on fire, and our forward line was kicking goals. So we had a bit of luck, but the Demons bounced back.
Can he run into it? Right foot snap. He's a goal. Melbourne are coming back
to Johnson from Adelaide lead by 2 points.
I think Gary Ayres at the time, quarter time and half time, made reference to momentum swings. And as a player, you always know that good teams are going to wrestle some momentum back, and Melbourne came back with a vengeance. So from 40 points up, I think at 3/4 time we were at one stage 29 points down. So it's a 69-point turnaround. So it's a massive momentum swing. And in a final, you just start thinking, what if we lose this game from where we were? But it had a really great ending.
There's the siren. Adelaide, a remarkable victory. They've come from behind.
To play 250 games for the LA Football Club is a privilege, and to play it in a final, is just awesome. So to have the combination, but also if you lose, you've got that double whammy as well.
Coming up after the break, we celebrate the passion and loyalty shown by Adelaide fans. Well, the Crows are blessed to have the most committed and passionate fans in the country. You can always count on the members and supporters to turn out in big numbers, whether the team is playing at home or interstate. However, with the coronavirus causing havoc, fans have no choice but to rely on technology to show their support. And thanks to Optus, let's see how they're staying connected to the club.
Young Isla celebrated Mother's Day by working up a sweat alongside her mum thanks to a virtual footy clinic run by Crows AFLW skipper Chelsea Randall. And how's this for a conflict of allegiance? This power fan has managed to get his Port membership cap signed twice by Crows Show host and former Adelaide skipper Mark Bickley. He counts the unique piece of memorabilia as one of his most prized possessions.
Well, we've heard what the fans are thinking and how they're feeling, so it makes sense they now have their questions answered by the senior coach. This week's question is from Bianca, who wants to know which players Matthew Nicks would like to spend 14 days in isolation with and who he would like to avoid. This segment is brought to you by Thomas Farms.
Who would I spend 14 days with and be reasonably happy in isolation? Tom Lynch is probably the one. Tom's just such a all-round good guy. I'm pretty sure he'd look after me for 14 days. The guy I probably wouldn't want to spend 14 days with, and this is not because he's not a good guy, but Benny Davis, I reckon after 3 or 4 days, I'm probably going to have enough of his antics. Although it would be entertaining for 3 or 4 days, it's probably going to get a bit long in the tooth by about day 5 or 6.
Now, before we go, just a reminder to check out afc.com.au for all your latest Crows news. There's also the social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Optus Crows Show. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next weekend on 7. It's bye for now.